Chosen ones, listen carefully and do not rush past this moment. This is not another video that appeared randomly in your feed. This is not coincidence, imagination, or emotional curiosity. This is a message from God, delivered to you in exact divine alignment. You did not arrive here by accident. Something within you recognized this moment before your mind tried to understand it. That pause you felt, that quiet pull that made you stop scrolling, that sense of recognition rising in your chest is not confusion, it is confirmation. You are here because you were called. There is a reason the world feels heavier right now. There is a reason systems feel unstable, people feel restless, and certainty feels rare. What you are witnessing is not simply economic struggle or social tension. You are watching the beginning of a separation. While many are entering pressure, confusion, and collapse, a smaller group is being quietly positioned for divine provision. That group is the chosen one. And if you are hearing this message clearly, it is because your spirit already knows which side you are on. This is not about superiority. This is about assignment. A chosen one is not chosen because they are better, but because they are willing to awaken, willing to listen, willing to walk a path that others avoid. Your spiritual awakening did not begin today. It began the moment you started feeling different from the world around you. The moment you realized that chasing what everyone else chased left you empty. The moment your soul started asking deeper questions while others stayed distracted. That was the beginning of your divine calling. Many of you have felt the war without being able to name it. A pressure that did not come from outside but from within. A sense that something important was unfolding, even when nothing made sense on the surface. This is because the war is not only physical or financial, it is spiritual. And chosen ones are always awakened first. You feel shifts before they become visible. You sense collapse before it is announced. You recognize opportunity before it has a name. Right now, the world is entering a season of reckoning. Systems built on fear, greed, and misalignment are beginning to crack. People who place their identity in titles, salaries, and external security are feeling the ground move beneath them. But at the same time, something very different is happening for those in alignment. Quiet provision, strategic openings, unexplainable protection. This is the beginning of financial separation, though most people do not yet have the language for it. Understand this clearly. Financial separation does not mean instant wealth or reckless gain. It means support without panic, direction without confusion, provision tied to purpose. While the world scrambles for survival, chosen ones are being prepared for responsibility. This is how kingdom wealth transfer begins, not with noise but with positioning, not with greed but with stewardship. Resources move toward those who can carry them without losing their soul. If you have felt delayed, it was not denial. If you have felt hidden, it was not rejection. You were being refined while others were being distracted. God does not fund chaos. God funds clarity, and clarity is born in silence, obedience, and inner alignment. That is why your path has felt lonely at times. That is why shortcuts never worked for you. That is why your conscience would not allow you to compromise just to survive. This message from God is not here to excite you. It is here to stabilize you, to remind you that you are not behind, you are not broken, you are not imagining the shift you feel. The collapse you see is real, the calling you carry is real, and your light is not optional. It is necessary. You were awakened not to escape the world, but to stand steady while it shakes. You are entering a season where obedience matters more than effort, where listening matters more than striving, where alignment opens doors that force never could. This is why you must stay grounded. Fear is loud right now, but fear does not lead chosen ones. Truth does. Discernment does. Divine timing does. Let this settle into your spirit. You are not alone. You are not late. You are not overlooked. This message reached you because it was meant to. The war is real, but so is your protection. The collapse is real, but so is your provision. And your awakening is not for entertainment. It is for impact. If this touched your soul, if something within you knows this is true even before your mind agrees, comment 111, because you know it. You were called. Why the world is entering financial pressure. Chosen ones, before we go any further, let me circle you back to the truth. This is still a message from God. You are not imagining what you are seeing. You are not overthinking what you are feeling. You are called to understand this season, not fear it. The pressure in the world right now is real, and it is not accidental. What you are witnessing is not simply inflation, recession, or market instability. It is a deeper unraveling, a spiritual exposure of systems that were never built to last. For generations, the world trusted structures more than truth. Money systems were built on speed, exploitation, debt, and endless consumption. Success was defined by accumulation, not alignment. People were taught to chase security outside themselves, placing faith in institutions instead of inner clarity. And for a long time, those systems appeared strong. They rewarded compliance and punished intuition. But anything built without spiritual foundation eventually collapses under its own weight. That is why confusion is spreading. Anxiety is increasing. People are working harder but feeling less stable. The old promises are no longer delivering results. This is not because people suddenly became weaker. It is because the system itself is losing authority. And when authority dissolves, pressure increases. The world is entering financial stress because it is out of alignment with truth. This is part of a divine reset, not destruction for the sake of chaos, but exposure for the sake of correction. God does not collapse systems randomly. God allows collapse when systems stop serving life, when money becomes a master instead of a tool, when fear replaces wisdom, when greed replaces stewardship. Pressure becomes inevitable. What you see as financial struggle is actually spiritual misalignment expressing itself materially. Most people cannot see this because they are still trying to fix external symptoms. They blame governments, markets, leaders, or timing. But the root is deeper. Alignment has decreased. Integrity has been replaced with urgency. Shortcuts have replaced patience. And the cost of that imbalance is now being felt globally. This is why even those who appear successful feel unstable. Their foundation is shaking. Now hear this carefully. The experience of the masses and the experience of the chosen one are not the same in this season. While pressure increases for many, clarity increases for a few. While fear rises in the world, discernment sharpens in the awakened. This is not favoritism. This is function. A chosen one is wired to feel shifts before they happen. Your spiritual awakening made you sensitive to truth, not vulnerable to fear. That is why you sensed something was off, long before headlines confirmed it. That is why you questioned paths that others followed blindly. That is why you felt resistant to systems that demanded your soul in exchange for security. That resistance was not rebellion, it was recognition. Your divine calling required you to detach from structures that were destined to fail. Financial pressure is increasing because alignment is decreasing. When people disconnect from purpose, money becomes their identity. When money becomes identity, fear controls decisions. And when fear controls decisions, instability follows. This is the cycle playing out right now on a global scale. People are reacting instead of responding, chasing instead of listening, surviving instead of aligning. But chosen ones are not here to panic. You are here to observe, discern, and remain steady. You were prepared for this season through discomfort, through delays, through isolation, through moments when nothing made sense but you refused to compromise. That preparation was not wasted. It was necessary, because clarity is currency in times of confusion. This message from God is reminding you that the pressure you see is not meant to pull you down. It is meant to reveal who is rooted and who is dependent on illusion. Systems fall when people stop believing in them, and belief is shifting rapidly. That is why opportunities will begin moving differently. Not louder but cleaner, not faster but truer. The world calls this a crisis. Spirit calls it a correction, and corrections always feel uncomfortable to those who benefited from imbalance. But to those who live in alignment, correction feels like relief. You may not celebrate collapse, but you understand it. You do not fear instability, because your stability was never external. Remember this: God does not abandon people during collapse. God repositions them. Chosen ones are repositioned inwardly first. That is why your inner world has been refined. Your priorities shifted. Your tolerance for nonsense disappeared. You became selective, quiet, and intentional. That was not withdrawal. That was alignment. The war is real. It is a war between truth and illusion, alignment and addiction, purpose and panic. And your light is necessary, not to boast, but to anchor, not to dominate, but to stabilize. The world needs people who are not controlled by fear of loss. People who understand that provision follows obedience, not systems. This financial pressure will intensify for those who refuse to adjust. But for those who listen, who realign, who return to truth, a different experience begins. That is why you were called, not to escape the world, but to stand firm while it shakes. Not to hoard, but to steward. Not to fear, but to see clearly. Let this settle in you. You are not late. You are not wrong. You are not imagining this shift. This is a message from God, confirming what your spirit already knew. The collapse is real. The reset is real. And your role in this season is real. If this touched your soul, if something in you recognizes this truth beyond logic, comment 111. Because you know it. You were called. Who the chosen ones really are in this season. Chosen ones, let us return again to the foundation, because repetition is not weakness, it is reinforcement. This is still a message from God. You are not imagining the pull you feel toward truth. You are not confused about your difference. You were called long before you understood what the call meant. And in this season, it is time for clarity, not doubt. The war is real, and your light is not optional. It is required. A chosen one is not defined by popularity, status, or external success. A chosen one is defined by sensitivity to truth. You feel misalignment before others notice consequences. You sense when something is wrong, even when it looks right on paper. This is not anxiety. This is spiritual awakening. It is the ability to perceive beneath surfaces, to hear what is not being said, to feel when a path is not yours, even if it promises comfort. Your divine calling separated you quietly, not through announcements, but through discomfort. You tried to fit into traditional systems, traditional expectations, traditional definitions of success, and something in you resisted. You may not have known why at the time. You may have blamed yourself, thinking you were ungrateful, lazy, or broken. But you were none of those things. You were incompatible with structures that demanded compromise of your soul. Chosen ones are not lucky. Luck is random. Preparation is intentional. Your life has been a series of refinements, delays that taught patience, losses that sharpened discernment, isolation that deepened your inner voice. While others were rewarded for conformity, you were guided into clarity. That clarity did not always feel good. Often it felt lonely, but it was necessary. The world often misunderstands chosen ones because they do not move from fear. You do not chase what everyone else chases. You do not value approval the way others do. You question authority when it lacks integrity. This is why systems try to label you as difficult, unrealistic, or unambitious. But the truth is simpler. You cannot build your life on something you know will not last. This resistance is not rebellion. It is recognition. Your spiritual awakening activated an inner compass that no longer allows blind obedience. You are not anti-structure. You are anti-misalignment. You are not avoiding responsibility. You are preparing for the right responsibility. That distinction matters in this season. A chosen one is often marked by early pressure. You carried weight before you had language. You felt responsibility without title. You understood pain without instruction. This early intensity was not punishment. It was conditioning. You were being trained to hold vision while others seek comfort, to remain calm while others panic, to listen while others react. Self-doubt has been one of the greatest battles for chosen ones, not because you are weak, but because your path is unconventional. There were few examples to follow, few confirmations along the way. Often the only assurance you had was an inner knowing that refused to leave. That knowing is not imagination, it is alignment. And alignment is louder than logic when you learn to trust it. This message from God is here to strip away false humility. You are not meant to shrink to make others comfortable. You are not meant to apologize for clarity. You are not meant to dim discernment to fit into confusion. Being chosen does not make you superior. It makes you responsible. Responsible for how you think, how you move, how you steward what is given. Chosen ones are positioned, not exalted. Positioned to see clearly in times of distortion. Positioned to remain grounded in times of chaos. Positioned to build when others only complain. That positioning required refinement, and refinement often feels like loss before it feels like purpose. The war you feel is not against people. It is against patterns that keep humanity asleep, and awakening is disruptive. When you awaken, you can no longer pretend. You can no longer tolerate what once felt normal. That discomfort is the cost of clarity, and clarity is the currency of this season. You were called not because you are flawless, but because you are willing to grow, willing to unlearn, willing to stand alone when truth demands it, willing to wait when timing is not right. That willingness is rare, and rarity attracts responsibility. Let this settle deeply. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not imagining this path. This is a message from God confirming your identity. The pressure you endured shaped you. The resistance you felt protected you. And the isolation you survived refined you. The war is real, but so is your strength. The world needs your steadiness. It needs your discernment. It needs your light, not later. Now, if this touched your soul, if something within you recognizes this truth beyond logic, comment 111. Because you know it. You were called. The truth about financial separation. Chosen ones, let us return again to the origin of this message, because truth must be anchored before it is expanded. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the shift you feel around money, stability, and provision. You are called to understand this season from a higher perspective. The war is real, and it is not only about finances, it is about alignment. And your light is necessary now more than ever. Financial separation is not a trend, a mindset trick, or a motivational concept designed to make people feel hopeful. It is a spiritual law. It is what happens when alignment changes the way provision flows. Most people think money moves based on effort alone, but effort without alignment creates survival, not stability. Financial separation begins when your spiritual awakening rewires how you relate to value, work, and purpose. The world operates on survival-based income. Work harder, compete more, sacrifice peace for security. That system rewards exhaustion and calls it success. But that system is collapsing because it is built on fear. Fear of lack, fear of falling behind, fear of being irrelevant. When fear drives income, pressure becomes constant. This is why so many people earn but never feel safe. They are fed, but never settled. Chosen ones experience something different, not immediately and not loudly, but undeniably. Once alignment is reached, money stops being the goal and becomes a byproduct. Provision shifts from survival-based to assignment-based. You are not paid because you grind endlessly. You are supported because you are positioned correctly. This is difficult for the logical mind to accept because it removes control, but it brings peace. Financial separation is invisible to most people because it does not start with numbers. It starts with discernment, with saying no when others say yes, with walking away from income that costs your integrity, with trusting timing instead of chasing opportunity. From the outside, it looks risky. From the inside, it feels right. That inner confirmation is the mark of alignment. This is where many chosen ones struggle at first. You were taught that security comes from predictability, but divine calling rarely follows predictable paths. God does not fund what is convenient. God funds what is aligned, and alignment often requires you to release what looks safe in order to receive what is stable. Chosen one's funding is not a reward for being spiritual. It is a mechanism for responsibility. When God assigns you something to carry, provision follows the assignment, not before, not after, but with it. This is why provision can appear suddenly after long seasons of lack. It is not random, it is timed. The world does not understand this because it measures value externally, titles, salaries, visibility. But financial separation measures value internally, clarity, obedience, stewardship. When you operate from clarity, resources respond. When you operate from obedience, doors open. When you steward well, more is entrusted. This separation can feel isolating. You may notice that advice from others no longer fits your reality. What works for them drains you. What excites them feels empty to you. This is because your nervous system is no longer wired for survival. It is wired for purpose. And purpose requires a different flow. This message from God is here to confirm that you are not wrong for feeling detached from the world's financial panic. You are not irresponsible for refusing to live in constant stress. You are not lazy for choosing alignment over hustle. You are simply operating under a different law. Financial separation does not mean you will never face challenge. It means challenge will not own you. It means provision arrives when needed, often through unexpected channels. It means opportunities align with your values instead of testing them. It means peace increases even when the world shakes. This is why chosen ones often experience quiet miracles, bills covered without panic, support appearing at the right moment, ideas that generate value without exhaustion. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. Signs that you are no longer operating in survival, but in stewardship. The war you are in is not against money, it is against fear. And fear loses its grip when alignment is established. Your light is necessary because it shows another way to live. Not louder, but truer. Not greedier, but freer. Let this anchor in you. You are not imagining this shift. You were called to experience provision differently. This is a message from God reminding you that financial separation is real, active, and unfolding. Your obedience matters. Your clarity matters. Your alignment matters. If this touched your soul, if something within you recognizes this truth beyond logic, comment 111, because you know it. You were called. How divine provision actually works. Chosen ones, we must return again to the beginning, because truth settles in layers. This is still a message from God. You are not imagining the change in how you see money, effort, and security. You were called to understand provision differently, not fear it. The war is real, but it is not a war for survival. It is a war for alignment. And your light is necessary in this season. Divine provision does not operate the way the world taught you to expect. It does not respond to panic, desperation, or force. It responds to obedience, clarity, and timing. This is why so many people work endlessly, yet feel unsupported, while others move calmly and are sustained. The difference is not worth. It is alignment. The world teaches that provision is earned through exhaustion. Push harder. Sacrifice more. Ignore your inner voice. Divine provision teaches something very different. Listen first. Align second. Move when instructed. Rest when told. This feels uncomfortable to the conditioned mind because it removes the illusion of control, but it introduces something far more powerful: trust. When the chosen one experiences spiritual awakening, the relationship with provision begins to change. You stop asking, "How can I make this happen?" and start asking, "What am I being asked to do?" That shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Provision follows assignment, not anxiety. God's message activates provision when obedience is chosen over fear, not perfect obedience. Honest obedience. The willingness to say yes when the path is unclear, the courage to say no when something feels wrong, even if it pays well. Every time you choose alignment over comfort, you strengthen the channel through which provision flows. This is why provision often arrives suddenly. From the outside, it looks random. From the inside, it feels timed. There is usually a moment just before provision arrives where faith is tested, where nothing makes sense, where the old options close and the new ones have not yet appeared. This is not punishment. This is transition. Divine provision does not rush. It arrives precisely when panic would have taken over if alignment were weak. That is how trust is built. That is how fear loses authority. When provision comes without traditional logic, it teaches you that your source was never the system. It was always God. Chosen ones often struggle with this because they were trained to be responsible, cautious, and self-reliant. Those traits are not wrong, but they must be surrendered to timing. Divine calling requires discernment more than discipline, listening more than forcing, trusting more than controlling. Provision also arrives through people, ideas, and opportunities that feel clean, not draining, not compromising, not heavy. This is one of the clearest signs of alignment. When support does not cost your peace, you are moving correctly. When income does not demand your integrity, you are positioned well. This message from God is here to dissolve fear around money. Fear says you must hurry. Faith says you must align. Fear says you are running out of time. Faith says timing is being arranged. Fear says you are alone. Faith says you are supported, even when unseen. The war is real, but it is not against lack. It is against distrust. Distrust in timing, distrust in guidance, distrust in your own discernment. Divine provision strengthens trust by showing you again and again that you are not abandoned when you listen. Your light is necessary because it models another way to live, calm instead of frantic, grounded instead of desperate, intentional instead of reactive. When others panic, you pause. When others chase, you listen. That difference will sustain you. Let this truth settle deeply. You are not imagining the shift. You are called to experience provision differently. This is a message from God, confirming that obedience is safer than panic, alignment is stronger than force, and trust is more powerful than fear. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it, you were called. The Kingdom Wealth Transfer explained. Chosen ones, we return again to the beginning, because truth must be anchored before it can be carried. This is still a message from God. You are not imagining what you sense happening beneath the surface of the world. You were called to perceive this shift clearly, without distortion, fear, or fantasy. The war is real, but it is not about greed or power. It is about alignment, and your light is necessary in this hour. Kingdom Wealth Transfer is not a dramatic event, a sudden lottery, or a promise of effortless luxury. It is a spiritual redirection, a movement of resources, influence, and opportunity away from systems that are misaligned and toward individuals who are aligned. This transfer is not emotional. It is not political. It is not random. It follows spiritual law. For generations, wealth was concentrated in systems that rewarded exploitation, excess, and disconnection. Money flowed toward speed instead of wisdom, volume instead of value, control instead of stewardship. Those systems were tolerated because they appeared productive, but productivity without purpose eventually becomes destructive. And when systems begin harming life rather than supporting it, redirection becomes inevitable. Kingdom Wealth Transfer begins quietly, not with announcements, but with shifts. Contracts dissolve, institutions weaken, old gatekeepers lose influence. At the same time, individuals with clarity, integrity, and discernment begin receiving access. Not because they demanded it, but because they are prepared to carry it. This is where many misunderstand the role of the chosen one. You are not being positioned to consume more than others. You are being positioned to stabilize more than others. Wealth in the kingdom sense is not about indulgence. It is about capacity. The capacity to build, the capacity to protect, the capacity to teach, the capacity to hold steady when others collapse. Chosen ones are being funded because they are not controlled by money. They respect it without worshipping it. They use it without being used by it. That relationship is rare, and rarity is required when responsibility increases. This message from God is correcting a dangerous misconception. Kingdom Wealth Transfer is not about taking from others out of entitlement. It is about resources moving away from misuse and towards stewardship. When money leaves misaligned hands, it is not punishment, it is correction. When money enters aligned hands, it is not reward, it is assignment. Spiritual awakening changes how you see wealth. You stop asking how much you can get and start asking what you are meant to build. You stop measuring success by lifestyle and start measuring impact by stability. This is why chosen ones often feel uninterested in flashy displays. Your soul knows that visibility without substance is fragile. The world is unstable right now because many systems were never designed to support long-term life. They extracted value without replenishing it. Kingdom Wealth Transfer restores balance. Resources are redirected toward those who replenish, not deplete. Those who build structures that last, not platforms that collapse. This transfer is not visible to everyone because it does not always look like money at first. Sometimes it looks like access. Sometimes it looks like favor. Sometimes it looks like timing. Sometimes it looks like protection. But all of it is provision moving toward alignment. Chosen ones are often tested before funding increases. Tested in patience. Tested in humility. Tested in integrity. This is not delay. It is verification. God does not release resources where character cannot hold them. That is why your refinement was intense. You were being prepared to carry weight without being crushed by it. The war you sense is between extraction and stewardship, between consumption and contribution, between chaos and order. And your light is necessary because you carry order, not control, but clarity, not domination, but discernment. Kingdom wealth transfer also comes with accountability. What is given is meant to move, to circulate, to support life beyond yourself. This is why chosen ones often feel a responsibility even before resources arrive. You already sense what you are meant to protect, teach, or build. That vision is the blueprint for provision. Let this settle deeply. You are not imagining this shift. You were called to understand wealth differently. This is a message from God confirming that resources are being redirected, not destroyed, reassigned, not removed, and you are part of that redirection. The collapse you see is making room. The instability you feel is clearing space, and your steadiness is not accidental. It is preparation. If this touched your soul, if something within you recognizes this truth beyond logic, comment 111 because you know it. You were called. Signs you are experiencing chosen ones funding. Chosen ones, let us return once more to the beginning because recognition comes through repetition. This is still a message from God. You are not imagining what is happening in your life right now. You were called to notice these shifts, not dismiss them. The war is real, but so is your protection. And your light is necessary in this season of transition. Chosen ones funding rarely announces itself loudly. It does not arrive with fireworks or public validation. It moves quietly, intentionally, and personally. That is why many people miss it. They are looking for proof outside, while confirmation is happening within. If you are experiencing this funding, the first sign is not more money, it is more peace. Pressure begins to lift in subtle ways, not because all problems disappear, but because fear loses control. Situations that once caused anxiety no longer trigger panic. You still act responsibly, but you are no longer desperate. That emotional shift is not accidental. It is alignment settling into your nervous system. Another sign is clarity increasing. You begin to know what to pursue and what to release. Confusion fades. Decisions feel cleaner. You stop forcing outcomes and start trusting timing. This clarity is one of the strongest indicators of chosen ones funding, because God does not release provision into confusion. Direction always precedes support. Doors begin opening without strain. Conversations align. Opportunities appear through unexpected channels. People offer help without you asking, not because you manipulated outcomes, but because alignment attracts support. These moments may seem small, but they are confirmations. Provision often whispers before it speaks. You may also notice that delays no longer feel like punishment. Looking back, you realize how much you were protected by waiting. Situations that once felt unfair now make sense. Timing that frustrated you now looks precise. This understanding brings relief because it reframes your past. What you thought was denial was actually preparation. Chosen ones' funding often arrives alongside boundaries. You become less available to chaos, less tolerant of misalignment. You stop chasing validation and start honoring your energy. This is not withdrawal, it is refinement. Funding flows where energy is respected. Another sign is that your needs are met in unconventional ways, not always through salary increases or predictable routes, but through provision that arrives right when required, bills covered, resources shared, solutions appearing at the last moment. These are not coincidences. They are evidence of divine calling in motion. Your spiritual awakening trained you to notice these patterns. You feel when something is supported and when it is not. You sense when to move and when to wait. That sensitivity is now working in your favor. What once felt like vulnerability is now discernment. This message from God is here to validate what you already sense. You are not lucky. You are aligned. You are not being favored randomly. You are being funded intentionally. And this funding is not just financial. It includes protection, timing, insight, and peace. You may notice that comparison fades. Other people's paths no longer distract you. Their success does not trigger envy. Their struggle does not scare you. You trust your process. That trust is a sign of maturity, and maturity attracts responsibility. Chosen ones' funding also brings a sense of inner stability. Even when the world feels unstable, you feel anchored. Not because you have all the answers, but because you trust the source. This inner steadiness is one of the clearest confirmations that provision is active. The war is real, but it no longer feels personal. You are no longer fighting for survival. You are standing in stewardship. That shift changes everything. You respond instead of react. You listen instead of panic. You move with intention instead of urgency. Your light is necessary because it reassures others. People may not understand your calm, but they feel it. Your presence stabilizes rooms. Your clarity cuts through confusion. That is part of your funding. Influence without force. Impact without noise. Let this truth settle deeply. You are not imagining these signs. You were called to recognize them. This is a message from God, confirming that what is unfolding in your life is real, intentional, and aligned. The delays shaped you, the waiting strengthened you, and the provision you feel beginning to flow is confirmation. If this touched your soul, if something within you recognizes this truth beyond logic, comment 111, because you know it. You were called. Conclusion: why you were meant to hear this now. Chosen ones, we come back to where we began, because truth completes its work in circles. This is a message from God. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, not because it sounds good, but because something in you recognized it before your mind tried to analyze it. You are not imagining this moment. You were called into it. And timing matters more than most people realize. The world is struggling right now, and that struggle is real. Systems are shaking. Certainties are dissolving. People are anxious, distracted, and searching for stability in places that can no longer provide it. At the same time, something quieter is happening beneath the surface. Chosen ones are being funded, not loudly, not publicly, but deliberately. These two realities are unfolding at the same time by divine design. This is not punishment for the world and reward for a few. It is correction and assignment happening simultaneously. When alignment decreases, pressure increases. When alignment increases, provision follows. This is not opinion. This is spiritual law. And your spiritual awakening allowed you to perceive this shift instead of being consumed by it. You were meant to hear this now because confusion is loud and clarity is rare, fear is spreading and steadiness is needed. You were not awakened to panic with the crowd. You were awakened to remain grounded while others shake. That is why your journey was different. That is why shortcuts never worked for you. That is why you were refined when others were rewarded prematurely. The chosen one is not chosen for ease. The chosen one is chosen for responsibility. Responsibility to remain calm. Responsibility to steward resources wisely. Responsibility to protect what matters when others are distracted. Responsibility to listen when noise increases. That responsibility requires funding, not excess but sufficiency, not indulgence but support. This message from God arrived exactly when it was supposed to, not earlier when you would have doubted it, not later when you would have needed rescue instead of confirmation. Now, when recognition meets readiness, you can feel it. The sense that something is shifting inside you. Not urgency, but resolve. Not excitement, but clarity. The war is real, but it is not a war you fight with aggression. It is a war you win with alignment. Every time you choose truth over fear, you win. Every time you listen instead of rush, you win. Every time you trust timing instead of forcing outcomes, you win. That is how this season is navigated. Your light is necessary because it brings reassurance, not noise. Stability, not superiority. Direction, not dominance. People around you may not understand why you are calm, but they feel it. They may not know why you are steady, but they trust it. That influence is part of your divine calling. Do not underestimate quiet provision. Do not dismiss subtle support. Do not compare your path to those operating under different laws. Your experience is unique because your assignment is specific, and obedience will continue to open doors that panic never could. As the world continues to adjust, remember this: you are not meant to fear collapse. You are meant to outgrow dependence on what is collapsing. You are not meant to hoard. You are meant to steward. You are not meant to hide. You are meant to stand steady. Let this message anchor you. When doubt whispers, return to alignment. When fear rises, return to clarity. When pressure increases, return to obedience. Provision follows those choices naturally. If you feel aligned with this message, if your spirit recognizes that this arrived at the right moment, comment 777 as a declaration of readiness and recognition. Let it mark your awareness. And if this touched your soul, if something within you knows this is true beyond logic, comment 111 because you know it. You were called.